After the very public tragedies in Newtown and Aurora, our attention has focused on the link between mental illness and mass violence. But let's look beyond the mad gunmen. The mentally ill are actually quite normal. Soccer moms, devoted dads, cheerleaders, popular jocks, and our elderly. Yet they are dying, not as a result of mass violence, but at their own hands. More Americans are killed annually by suicide than car wrecks, and on average more than 3 Coloradoans commit suicide every day. My childhood friend, Grant Burton, jumped off a parking garage. He died instantly. He was 17. How could somebody who was voted the coolest kid in his junior year of high school commit suicide? I learned that he was battling bipolar disorder and depression. I was devastated and confused. I never even realized he was sick. Tragically, this is not a unique story. More teens die from suicide than cancer, heart disease, AIDS, stroke, flu, and pneumonia combined. Heart disease is called the silent killer. But the silence we create around mental illness is a real one. Social stigma and isolation are suffered daily by the mentally ill in our culture. Our silence becomes the silent killer. The stories I want to tell are the ones our society have the hardest time talking about. Over 20 years in 3 continents, I've met ordinary people with extraordinary stories who share my desire to speak clearly and loudly and truthfully. I want to break the silence surrounding mental health with the silent treatment. True stories about the stigma of mental health. It's a traveling art show with 20 fine art paintings and corresponding personal narratives and news stories. It will travel to a variety of venues around Colorado, and it will start in the spring of 2014. The paintings will depict the stories, stigma, and challenges of mental illness. It is my hope that they will foster a meaningful conversation about mental health and how we can bridge our differences by sharing our stories. Here are some of the stories. Christie's. Snap out of it and move forward. Is not a choice I have. Christy is a mother and a published author, diagnosed with bipolar I disorder in 1992. Christy's most hurtful advice came from friends who meant well. Snap out of it, or try harder, or get over it already. I'm doing pretty well right now, but it's because I work hard to be where I am. Carrie. The unseen veil of torment. Deep-seated self-stigma can be the worst kind of stigma. Carrie had her first episode of major depression at age 13. I thought I was wacko, loony, that crazy person portrayed in the media. As an adult, Carrie wouldn't leave her house or seek help for fear that people would find out she has mental illness. Carrie's road to recovery led her to sharing her story. She is now a journalist who actively promotes accurate and balanced portrayals of the mentally ill. Speak about mental health, and eventually Columbine will become a flower, not a tragedy. It's sometimes easy to forget that our brain, like all of our other organs, are vulnerable to disease. And it's more common than you think. This year, 1 in 4, or 70 million people, will have a mental illness and experience its many manifestations and symptoms, all of which cause havoc in our daily life, and worst of all, it carries an unspoken stigma. We have choices, but ignoring mental illness will not make it go away. Choosing to think that mental illness is a character flaw isn't an option either. We should choose civic responsibility and compassion, creating a sense of purpose, a sense of connection, and a sense of happiness. In so many ways, this seems small, a little show, in a little town somewhere out west. But it's not small, it's a big idea. Have you ever heard of the butterfly effect? Basically, it's about small things that can impart big changes in unimaginable and unpredictable ways. These large-scale implications of a small traveling art show are not always apparent at first. It starts with small lessons. People with mental illness sometimes just need to know that you're willing to listen, or knowing mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. Neither is talking about it. So, let's get started. Let's talk about mental health together.